In this episode,
This is Prohibition THC Cafe.
what's the address?
2113 South State. Hemp is federally legal and has been legal before cannabis legalization. Where we are legal, they're illegal. The hypocrisy of it all, right? You tell us we can't sell it. Yeah, you banned it, but only social equity applicants. This is what Kim Lightford was pushing, working for them. Now you're gonna prevent me from doing legal business because they can't compete with honest product. They have to lie. They have to use their lawyers and politicians and lobbyists to make it illegal or to ban it for us. Now you wanna play? First of all, you're not gonna out drug sell dope dealer me. Now I'm gonna sell 1 million pounds a year in Chicago. They feared that people will understand this and stop going to them bogus dispensaries. They think they have problems with young people downtown in these communities already that they fear. I'm gonna drive these young people down their throat, and we're gonna increase the black market that is weed in these streets, and we're gonna shut these dispensaries down. So play games if you want to. Buy, support your local weed man.
Beginning January 1st, 2020, the recreational use of cannabis will be legal in the state of Illinois.
Available to stream now, my mini doc dives into the history of Illinois legalization, starting with
January 1st, what should we expect? The biggest thing that we need people to understand is that January 1, in terms of the criminal justice system here in this state, is the end of Prohibition.
see how Illinois missed its chance at real cannabis reform with key failures, including the fact that
The program includes regulation on possession limits.
so people can still be arrested for a possession.
And I want to highlight that in its first year of legalized recreational marijuana in the state of Illinois, they arrested 3 times as many black people for possession than any other race.
We've run into so much cannabis, we've run out of places to put it.
I have represented people and taken their cases through the court system who got charged with more serious crimes only because the police said that they smelled cannabis. And not because the police said you have illegal cannabis, or not because you have too much cannabis, or not because you're high on cannabis, but because I can smell it and that's it.
Attorney goes, he understands that he can't be smoking and his cannabis flower shouldn't be open. And I was like, I'd like to say for the record that I was not smoking and my flower was not open.
So that's where we're at right now in Illinois, and I hope it changes.
start watching now at colememo.com/minidoc. In this episode of the Cole Memo, I travel to a dispensary in Illinois, a newly opened dispensary. The unique thing about this dispensary is that it is not licensed under the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. What does that mean? Well, you can still go there and buy weed. In fact, you can go and buy as much weed as you want. Once again, it is not subject to the same regulations as the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. In all due candor, it falls under, well, it's hemp. It is hemp that they're selling. It all qualifies as hemp. And this is a topic we've covered on the show a few different times. I'd like to share the perspective of cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard on this subject behind how they're able to sell flower in a store like this. Let's watch the clip.
If you go and buy weed at your medical dispensary locally or at your adult use dispensary, it's probably going to be hemp. The vast majority of the ones that you see in an Illinois dispensary qualify as hemp. They'll be in Missouri too. Michigan don't play that. The THCA loophole is really big because that's what the plant makes. So the plant is making hemp. It's not marijuana until you light it on fire.
Would you agree that maybe some people are just slapping on a THCA sticker and selling weed right now?
Yeah.
Under this loophole? As you just said, the dispensary carries these products too. I think some people get confused and think that THCA is some like synthetic or like it's sprayed on or...
There's no difference.
You can watch my entire conversation with Tom Howard for free now. See the link in our bio or go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. So you don't have to go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. You can just go to thecolememo.com and look for my episode with Tom Howard if you'd like to learn more about how this all works. As he said, There is no difference. It's the exact same product. And for all those reasons, I was so excited to go to the Prohibition THC Cafe to support my local weed man. I want to just say that if you'd like to see the grand opening speech, right now it's on their Instagram, which is support your local weed man on Instagram. I'll have their Instagram linked in the show notes. I'll also have their website linked in the show notes. This is the Cole Memo. I'm your host, Cole Preston. Every episode is released in audio, video, and transcript format. To find the transcript, audio, or video version of any episode, please refer to the description of the episode that you're listening to now. Within that description, you can find a link that will take you to our website, which will display the transcript for this episode and the platforms where you can find this episode in audio or video formats. If you're unable to locate the episode description on whichever platform you're listening from, simply take note of the episode number and visit thecolememo.com. From there, you can use our search functionality in the top right-hand corner to find the corresponding episode, and then you'll be able to access the audio, video, and transcript version of that episode. You might also find any links that we reference during the episode so that you might be able to do your own research or connect and support your local weed man. If you're not listening to this episode of the Cole Memo on Patreon, then you're listening to this episode later than our patrons. To become a patron, go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. It's a great way to support our show. One of the best ways to support our show is free. Subscribe to or follow our show. Leave us a positive review from wherever you're listening to us from. Favorite this episode, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, or post a review. Your engagement and support is appreciated. Enjoy this episode of The Cole Memo.
He's gonna be about 6'7", so he's gonna be huge.
So, did you say you wanted a joint, Tyrone?
No, I don't smoke.
Okay.
And I know that people always say, "You don't smoke? Why you in the cannabis dispensary?" We do a lot. We don't do a lot of things that we participate in.
That is one thing I didn't expect to hear from you this morning, is that you didn't smoke. I figured,
Man, hold on. You can't smoke that. You got to smoke.
Yes.
You got to smoke. Support your local weed man product.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
You can't smoke. There you go.
Thank you, brother.
Give our queens. They love smoke. They can smoke too, if they want.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've had a live audience in the show.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Listen, this is how we do it here. We keep creating culture.
Yeah.
Around here.
No, but tell us about that, dude, because I saw your post yesterday.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was just like, they're doing it. But I don't want to explain it for you, dude. First of all, introduce yourself.
So,
tell us what you're doing.
I'm Tyrone Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the executive director for ECCSC. That's ex-cons for community and social change. Not-for-profit, violence prevention, reentry, workforce development, mentoring organization. Founded 2017 after I came home after serving 21 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
that's the basis of how we got started in this space anyway.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, it has a cannabis focus because it just so happens that the criminalization of cannabis has locked up a lot of black men and women and everybody else, But like you just said, it's more of a kind of a community-wide thing.
Yeah.
ECCSC, is that right?
That's it.
Cool. Yeah. I just wanted to make that clear because some people might think that since we're talking about cannabis, since I'm smoking on cannabis, that what you just said is all about cannabis, and that's not true. It's for the whole community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. So, just looking at the legalization of cannabis, right? While I was in prison serving my time, and I saw that men like myself who created the black market that is cannabis, hundreds of thousands of pounds we probably sold in these streets.
Right.
And here we are, 99% of all cannabis dispensaries are owned by white men.
Right.
Not $1 of sales was documented going to black or brown owners when the study ended in 2023. Instead, white male owners took in 78% of recreational dispensary sales and 91% of grower sales.
And white men who don't even live, most of them don't even live in the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
That means no white women, no black women, but white men own the dispensaries, right? So for 50 years, my community, black men in particular,
right,
have been going to prison for the prohibition against cannabis, right? We've been mass incarcerated from the 80s war on drugs, and then Clinton 94 crime bill ushered in black men and boys in prison systems all over this country, right?
Yep.
That everybody capitalized on, even in the stock market.
Yes.
So these are bodies, right? Now here we are, fast forward, legalization of cannabis. In order to justify the legalization, the politicians, lobbyists, and lawyers have to now say we want to fix the damage that was caused by the war on drug and create wealth,
right,
for the communities most affected by it, right?
Yeah.
So we come to find out that here we are. We're waiting on this.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to offer expungement for the legalization.
Right.
Not full restoration of my rights. Expungement. One thing I often tell people, I would never get an expungement. I would never participate in systemic bias.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would never get that because I don't need it.
Right.
You know, what did America do to expunge this past? Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
What do criminals do? What did they have to do, a lot of these political criminals, to expunge what they do to us every day?
Yes.
So once I serve my debt to society according to the Constitution,
mm-hmm.
I must be restored full rights as a citizen.
Right.
So why should I need an expungement when the court, a jury of my peers, quote unquote, or the court systems have determined that after I've served this time for the crime that I committed,
mm-hmm.
then I should be fully restored.
Well, not only that, but it's funny that not only should it be that way, but to add insult to injury, you get out and you got to file the fucking paperwork.
I got to file the paperwork.
And not only that, but just until recently, and I know you said you don't smoke, but people that smoked weed couldn't get an expungement because you had to pass a drug test to get your expungement.
Absolutely.
So I know actually Representative Carol Ammons from Urbana.
Yes,
great woman.
That's my sister.
Dude, she's the best. She's the best. My champion, my hero.
Yeah.
I am Carol Ammons. I am the representative of the 103rd Legislative District in Illinois. I thought that when we passed legislative measures, we would legalize completely, which we have not done. And we've seen people continuously be charged with having too many plants in their basement. It's capitalism at its best. That's what it is. Because the reality is, if you say this thing is legal, if I can grow 6 broccoli plants and nobody come and arrest me for it, why can't I grow 6 marijuana plants in my backyard? Why would I be arrested for that? Except that the cannabis industry that is driven by capitalists, right, are able to make it illegal for me to do what I'm doing so that they can corner the market. That's all it is. And we've seen this over and over and over again in so many ways that I have been in staunch opposition to any cannabis legislative initiative that does not go back and fix the original problems. I believe that we should allow people to grow as many plants as they can manage. It's not easy growing plants, as we know, right? So there's no real effort to stop charging people, period, and arresting them, to allow people to have the freedom of expression when it comes to a plant. This is a plant. And this concept of keeping the licenses constricted, that's the part that reminds me of an earlier period of time, the gold rush, right? Homestead Act. So if you think restricting the licenses is the way for you to bring justice and social justice into the space, I totally disagree.
She helped to make that no longer a thing so that if you if you use cannabis, you can get it expunged. But one of the things she always said, to your point, was that it should be automatic expungements. What the fuck are you talking about that I have to file paperwork?
Once you're
you
done.
did this to me.
Exactly. Once we're done, then, for instance, I'm allowed to vote as a returning citizen, but I'm not allowed to bear arms
Right.
See, listen, all of these things that says we should be restored. So blank across the board, you're not even allowed to even protect yourself and your household.
Right, which is a
Well, it's
constitutional
a constitutional right, the Second Amendment, right? So these are these systemic biases and prejudice that are created by legislators, not the inalienable right that's given to us by God, as well as the Constitution is put on hold because they have used public safeties and violence as a tool for their dirty practices, right?
And I think that brings us to where we are today, because as you just said, I always like to say we legalized it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't meet my definition of what I thought legalization would be. But to your point, you said we legalized it and we were going to take a focus to repair the harm on the war on drugs, which is funny when you consider that the main enforcement mechanism for the legal cannabis system is the war on drugs.
It is. And it's designed as a tool. It's like Black Death is a hustle, right? In whatever form. So when you take a person off the streets for 20 years like me, right, you essentially sentence them to death. Life is 20 years. Anytime you say they give you life, that means all of that, your valuable years, they take that from you. That's your life, where you build family, where you build careers, where you get education. So once you get, I know I don't look 53, right? But once you go past that, it's time for you to now build family and retire.
Right.
So you take people's lives from them for stuff that they can never get back. So in this case, in order to make something legal, you must first fix the damage that was caused to the persons and bodies that you violated.
Right.
So if we make cannabis legal, we have to give full restoration first of all those people that was incarcerated. And then we was in the 80s, if you got caught with a blunt or a butt weed in your ashtray, it might be before your time. They seized your car, or if you got caught with a certain amount of cannabis, they took your home. The government seized so much Black property, brown property, they seized it.
Yeah.
Stole it.
Yeah, let's say that.
And never restored those properties back to those families. And then you take men off the street to be fathers to their children, their wives, their community, right?
Right.
You never restored those communities. Now the breadwinner is removed from those households.
Right.
So now the only way to start to repair that is to first offer returning citizens the right to a license to repair first, not white men with $1 billion and lobbyists and lawyers. You should have gave them the opportunity first.
Yeah.
They are the true social equity.
Right.
True social equity is not a Black person.
And I want to
address that for real.
Yeah, and I want to talk about licensing because that's basically why I'm here today. But before we get to that, I just really want to try to make this point for our audience. As you were saying, the criminal law is still the main enforcement mechanism for this legal system. So license or not, if you are caught, still to this day, if you're caught with too much weed,
you're going to jail.
You're going to jail. Exactly.
But this is the biggest part right now that's happening in our communities. They're using cannabis still as a tool for illegal search and seizure of young men with guns, to get guns off the streets. Why wouldn't a young man have a gun when the police can't protect them in these communities?
Also,
the gun is,
these licensed operators are required to have firearms on them. Exactly. I just think these people that are getting caught up in this, what I call them, are just unlicensed entrepreneurs.
That's it.
And it's not that they don't want licenses.
No,
we can't get them.
I propose to the government that the guys in the streets that are peddling drugs or peddling cannabis should be given peddler's license.
Right.
Now, what happens with that is we bring them out of the shadows of illegality, since they deemed it as that. And then they will have to buy like pounds from reputable COAs from people like Support Your Local Weed Man to supply them. and they will have like now you really create social equity because now the returning citizens buy from other returning citizens.
Yeah.
That ultimately the tax dollars goes back to benefit those communities and households and families. So there's ways to do it, but the big cannabis company that made $4 billion last year, $4 billion, with a B, $4 billion last year. How that looks if we're talking about giving a license to the average woman and man in the communities to peddle weed, that would destroy their industry, which the plant should be free anyway.
And that's what that's the kind of the point I wanted to make before we got to licensing was like, before weed was legal, my only problem was that when I'd go to my guy, my local weed man,
that's right,
I'm looking over my fucking shoulder on the way there and the way back. That was the problem. It wasn't that 20 white men couldn't make money. That wasn't my problem. I was like, oh geez, you know, like, and it's funny how they make it about that. Like you say, their argument against open licensing, which is something you see in Michigan, Oklahoma, and everything else, is, well, the price of weed gets so low that nobody can make money. I don't fucking care.
If you can make money. Listen, compete with us.
Bingo.
Compete with us.
Right.
Why would you? First of all, you're not going to out drug sell dope dealer me.
No.
At the end of the day, we created the black market that is cannabis.
Right.
For them to take it from us. And that is disrespectful, appalling. And as a black man, I saw that.
Right.
I said, absolutely not would I allow white men to come and take an industry that we built. We got to figure out a way and a line for us to get in this because they're not going to invite us in.
Right.
See, where they claim that they want to use the tax dollars to help the communities, we actually do that. We actually hire people from the communities. So they don't do that. Ex-cons can't even work in dispensaries.
Right.
When I go in dispensaries, I see no fault of their own, young white girls, older white women, white men working the counters when we built the doggone industry for them to even have a job, and then creating unions. They don't understand that they are part of the hate that hate produce or the disinvestment that disinvestment produce.
Right.
They don't even understand that you're working behind these counters and supporting dispensaries in their current formulation is to support racism and discrimination. They don't even know it because all they seeking is economics and an opportunity to feed their families. But then the unions that they form to get higher wages don't fight for guys like me.
No.
Who actually on the front line making it possible for them to win in that space.
And you're starting to hear that, by the way, that they don't, all the people that have unionized, at least a lot of them that I've talked to, don't feel they're reaping the benefits they were promised.
And they shouldn't, because now you're crying foul while the young homie, little JoJo and them, who spent 21 years in prison for cannabis in the neighborhoods, they never even got a job. At least you have a job from what they built the industry and can't even get a job in the industry, where all of the perks that these people are able to enjoy, they owe a debt to these brothers whose bodies languish in prison still to this day, haven't been expunged, and some still sit in prison across this country without being released.
Yep. And folks, just to put a cap on this before we transition to where we're at and everything else today, I just wanted to say you can look up the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act of 2019. I'm going off the top of my head right now. The first words out of that law are to allow law enforcement to focus on violent and property crime. We, the General Assembly, find that cannabis should be licensed and regulated similar to alcohol. In other words, legal. And I just want to say those first few words again. To allow law enforcement to focus on violent and property crime. Now, with that said, as you were just citing off earlier, the Cannabis Control Act of 1978, which you can also look up, is the Illinois law that originally established the graduated set of penalties that for cannabis possession and cannabis trafficking and everything else. In other words, you're caught with this much, well, you go to jail for that much, right? That is still in effect today. And in fact, it's like I was saying earlier, the main enforcement mechanism for this legal law. So in other words, just to put a cap on it, we enforce our legal cannabis system with the same exact force. Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
So hence here we are, as you say.
Yep. What are we doing here? What's going on?
So we've stood on the front line fighting for inclusion. When I hear equity.
By the way, this is some great weed.
Yes.
Just had to say that.
And we give a lot of that away for free. Don't expect that the cannabis companies would do that. They're sitting garbage out, probably got mold on it. Yeah. They were sitting that out and charge this high tax for that. And that's probably our lowest quality.
Really?
And
this is good.
And it's good, right? So because I'm very intentional about the flower. I go out and hit the different hemp farmers. Mm-hmm. I'm very intentional about the product that we infuse. So they try to make it like it's unsafe.
Right.
And I know you're going to get to that.
Oh, yeah.
But they only use that as a tool to justify or to make people stay away from places like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't compete with honest product. They have to lie. They have to use their lawyers and politicians and lobbyists to make it illegal or to ban it for us.
Yeah. And I've had the head of Cresco Labs on the show. You might be familiar. And he said exactly what you just said. Our industry cannot compete with an identical product that doesn't have to pay the same state licensing, and everything else.
And you know why
they signed themselves up for?
That industry can't possibly compete with an identical product, truly identical, being sold at a store that doesn't have to pay for a state license, doesn't have to comply with state regulatory structures and the cost of those, doesn't have to pay that excise tax, can take credit cards, can raise capital, can go public on U.S. exchanges, doesn't have 280E. One way or another, these two things have to be reconciled. So it might be an incredible opportunity that can't be ignored. My desire would still be, though, then, okay, whatever it is, if your business is in that realm, you have to accept and incorporate the obligation to be responsible and respectable. Because if you're not, then all you're going to do is make the naysayers right, entrench them in their position, and stifle the opportunity to get the reform that all of us want for cannabis.
I speak with Charlie Bachtel about hemp, license limitations, home grow for all, and more in episode 39 of The Cole Memo.
You know what I've told them?
What's that?
First of all, if your industry was smart, your industry would make a Tyrone Muhammad your executive CEO. See, they use a lot of this space. They'll hire black women and black men who they see as safe. They don't bring guys who actually know something about sales and distribution, right? They don't bring guys that actually has credibility in these communities to create the style, the brand, and the culture. They lock us out. So we locked up and locked out. So here we are. We figure out a loophole. We figure out the hemp laws and the regulation. When they ignored the hemp that's federally legal, people out there, hemp is federally legal and has been legal before cannabis legalization. They ignored hemp because their whole idea was for medical plus one.
Bingo.
Right? There's never was about the health benefit of cannabis or hemp. Mm-hmm. It has always been about recreation and profit for them.
Making the dollar bill.
They never cared about that. They knew that if we get the medical plus one, we'll have all the licenses.
Right.
Before it was over with.
Right.
So where does that lead us? Fighting, asking for equity, inclusion. I always say diversity, equity, and inclusion mean everybody but black man. Everybody but black man. Black men need not apply. So when black men come along and create his own lane, I'm Tesla.
Fuck it.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to tell me, nah, we don't want no electrical vehicles. stay in the gas lane.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't ever elevate because politicians and politics constantly try to keep their foot on your neck because they want to control you and they want to control the industry.
Yeah. You know what? It's a great analogy that I like. I don't even like to call it a loophole. I like to think of it as taxi medallions and Uber.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
Everybody was familiar with taxis, and then all of a sudden cell phones got popular, and we thought, like, why the fuck do I hail a cab when I could, like, get a comfortable car that pulls right up to me?
Wow.
Why would I do that? And guess what the taxis tried to do? Tried to say Uber should be illegal. And it's like, hold the fuck on. What are you saying? I can't pick somebody up in my car?
Exactly.
This is the same fucking thing, and I don't view it as a loophole because, as you said, it's
somebody
federally
up in your car is not illegal.
Right.
And same with hemp. Hemp is federally legal.
Bingo.
So how is it that MSOs, multi-state operators can use their lawyers, politicians, and lobbyists to make something that's nationally legal, locally illegal?
What's funny is that what they're selling in their stores is illegal.
Yes.
Because it's not hemp.
It's not.
Some of it actually is.
Yeah.
And actually, I've talked to a lot of the operators that do purchase from hemp operators. I've talked to hemp operators that have sold to dispensaries, and they put it in their infused products because the law has allowed
the shelf.
Correct. Well, that you will stop. You will find some flowers, folks, if you look, that are below that 0.3% threshold. But the key is, to your point and to their point, they'll say, no, we're not selling hemp. It's cannabis sold under the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act.
Yeah, you're
absolutely
THCA
right.
And Cresco.
That's what I'm saying. Bingo.
Where we are legal, they're illegal.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Yes. And then what? But the hypocrisy of it all, right? You tell us we can't sell it.
Right.
And should be regulated. But yet you will sell it in your dispensary. The same thing you saying we should be banned to do.
Yeah.
You're saying, yeah, you banned it, but only social equity applicants. This is what Kim Lyford was pushing, working for them.
Right.
I mean, and I'm going to digress. In order for white men to control 90% of the market, black legislators had to legislate against their own community. I'm going to say it again. This is not a Republican state. I don't care how much you want to talk Republican, say the Republican did this. This is a Democratic-led state and city. And our very own people, Democrats, all good, our very own people that we send into the office to legislate for us are actively working for these same individuals that's fighting against us.
Yeah.
All you have to do is watch the D2s and follow the money. And following the money, you will find out who's controlled by corporate cannabis.
On that note, selfish plug, if you go to colememo.com/history, I show you how to trace the money, and we traced over $600,000 to your elected officials.
Please show me.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I want to do a show with you, just us chasing the money.
Let's do it.
Just talking about and watching how we sit in home, we think it's fair, and we don't vote. We don't know what our elected officials are doing.
Yep.
Even when we don't vote, we are affected by it. We have to increase voter registration and voting understanding and civic engagement so our communities can better understand what's happening.
Yeah. So to put it in a bottle, and I want to actually quote Kim Lyford, remind me to do that because she said something crazy, and I'll play the clip for our podcast listeners. But we are sitting in a hemp dispensary right now, completely federally legal. You can come on down. What's the address?
2113 South State. This is Prohibition THCafe.
Sweet. Hell yeah. Come on down. I just wanted to give the plug real quick, and I'll put the plug in earlier in the podcast as well. But
I support your local weed, man.
Hell yeah. That's exactly why I wanted to say it real quick, just so that people remember what we are and where we are and how to get here. You know what I'm saying? So, Kim Lyford, just a recap of what happened this summer really quick. Like you said, they said, well, we're not going to ban hemp. We're just going to give it to our social equity licensees because it harms our social equity licensees. In other words, they view these shops as competition to licensees. And so like you say, they wanted to limit licenses, but they did it under the guise of public safety.
Yes.
Oh, these kids are coming in. These
Right.
kids are coming in
Right.
and getting high.
Right.
When really, like you said, if you really drill down, it's all about competition, and they want to tamp down on competition. They
That's
don't
it.
want you to exist. One of the things she said before she left session, and she actually, I think it was before she put it onto the floor.
Yes.
She said, "You will not kill our children this summer."
They are selling illegal cannabis on the streets, and you will not be allowed to kill off young people this summer. If you want to sell cannabis, then get yourself legalized. I ask for an aye vote.
Let me say this. My organization, Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, ECCSC, probably have stopped with our group over 3,000 shootings in this city in the last 3 years.
Right.
Now, I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say it again. We probably done intervened in over 3,000 potential murders or shooting in this city in 3 years. And Kimberly Leifer hasn't fought for us to have resources to do more work so that no kid get murdered.
Right.
Last week, 8 babies was murdered. I didn't hear Kimberly Leifer. She talking about some cannabis that she say someone received that was hemp or that. How do she know?
Right.
Furthermore, gas stations and corner stores ain't prohibition.
Right.
It's not even the quality or character of like opulence and you know what I'm saying, high standards that we're trying to, or I'm not saying trying, that we're creating in a culture of standards where anybody ain't coming in here. They not allowed.
Right.
If you can't come and feel the good vibes of a space that promotes like peace, public safety, unity, collectivism, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this place is. Those corner stores and gas stations are not that.
Right.
And they shouldn't be. I've advocated for them to be regulated.
Yeah.
Regulated, not banned.
Right.
Regulated.
And most of the people that I speak to agree to that as well. They say, look, I already only sell this to people that are 21 years of old.
That's right. We put that hemp 21 in.
Nice.
Myself, the Charles Wu, we did that. Our hemp coalition did that.
Yeah, testing, labeling.
We had it all.
Yep, exactly. All of the concerns that they had addressed.
And you don't see no 8 kids up in here.
Right. Well, and that's when the real part of it comes out. When you say, okay, here's to address your concerns. And they say,
and Leifer was invited to come here.
Really?
She would destroy this that employs women and children. And men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black, brown, white.
To your point real quick, you were willing to do everything they were complaining about, and they said, no, that's not good enough. You're undercutting our business. And it's just like, dude, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Because what Kimberly Lightford's law would have done, it would have had $10,000 daily fines for a place like this, plus all criminal penalties under the Cannabis and Control Act. So it would have increased criminalization in Illinois, cannabis criminalization.
Yeah.
In other words, we would have been taking steps back.
Right. I would make sure she locked me up. You can believe that, because I'm not going to let you destroy something that we created, that we're feeding ourselves. Bottom line is, she didn't fight for us to have license. And then she, from what I understand, owned some portion of a license that she sold. I need you to help me look up all elected officials who families.
Yeah.
And everybody that benefit from legalization and who is funded by the top 5 MSOs in this state.
See, that's where, so we can trace the money, but while I will just say quickly that where it does get a little complicated, what's funny is some people have said like, oh, we don't know who all these hemp operators are. Try to figure out who the cannabis operators are. They literally, I've submitted FOIA requests, and so is the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times. They will not tell you who are behind these licenses, because they have that protected under state law. And that has proven problematic in other industries like gambling and everything else. So
think about this.
So we could trace the money, but we can't find the ties to the companies. But just another tie.
But they give donations and
yes,
R3. Now watch this. Mm-hmm. This is $700 million in tax dollars that should have went to our communities. our organization hasn't received a dime. And because I fight for the way I fight and the way we fight, over $5 million was allocated to my group that they stopped. That was a line item by LaShawn Ford and others. They killed it. Kimberly Lightfoot didn't fight for it.
And it was to your group.
To my group. $3 million a year came to me, our ECCSC, that was line item. And J.B. Pritzker's, LZ Sims, who else? Chris Welch took our funding. But yet they say they don't want kids to be murdered. When I mentor over 80 young men from ages 8 years old to 27, and the cats that comes through our organization don't go back to the streets. Violence need a job, and we feed violence. We feed anti-violence. We anti-violence with a job.
Right.
And if the cannabis companies were serious, they will fund our organization to do more. Yet the same people talking about no children should die are the same groups that never give us the necessary resources in the millions that they give to politicians that do nothing to fight the very thing that they say they want to prevent or fight for. It's a hypocrisy, and we have to call it out. We got to create a movement that allow us. That's why this is the most dangerous thing in the world, when black men and white men agree. You understand?
Yeah.
Against them.
Yeah.
Now, it's more of us
for them, right?
It's more of us than it is of them. It's more of the community in the streets, people. It's more women that need opportunity in these communities than it is them. They just don't know where to put their vote. They don't know where to put their voice, and they don't know where to line up with collective thinking and collective and create collectivism that make it profitable for us all.
Yeah. Quick to put some data behind what you just said. The University of Illinois found that arrests continue predominantly in areas that don't have dispensaries. Spoiler alert. That's the same communities that have always borne the brunt of the war on drugs.
I wanted to play the clip that I was referring to. I'll paste the link to this information in the show notes.
Although the fact that arrests are still happening, that does point to the fact, and you looked at this as well, the illicit market remains strong. And a lot of people, different depending on the demographic, but a lot of people are still turning to that illegal market to obtain their cannabis, right?
That's correct. The Tribune did a nice story a couple of years back. Their angle on this was that the arrests in Chicago were occurring in places where there weren't dispensaries. And so we took another look at that again. We updated that information and found that that's still the case. And that suggests that one reason that people turn to the illegal market is that it's just more convenient for them. They don't have a dispensary near where they live. And unfortunately, at least that's true in Chicago, the lack of dispensaries happens to be in neighborhoods that are primarily ethnic minorities and poorer neighborhoods. So that's still a concerning issue. And one of the criticisms of Illinois' tax act, the Cannabis Tax Act, is that the taxes are so high that cannabis is more expensive to get in a dispensary, even if you have one convenient to you. And so it's actually just cheaper to go and buy it from your local dealer who you may have been buying it from for years. And so we found that those are several of the reasons that people continue to buy illegally: convenience, price, and having a trusted dealer that they've used for a long time.
So that was from researcher James Swartz. He's a PhD at the Jane Addams College of Social Work at the University of Illinois in Chicago. That was his interview from the 21st show. I'll send you back into the episode, but as a reminder, that link to the full interview will be in the show notes if you'd like to check it out.
See, we at war. We're at war. And it's unfortunate that the problem would be we got to almost, if we don't go into economic war, because that's the greatest war right now, economic war. If we can't feed, house, clothe our women and children as men, then how do we teach our women and children, or how do we help them educate themselves? Now the good thing is women are more educated in our community than black men. Also, 75% unemployment rate for 18 to 24-year-olds. No wonder they robbing, killing, and stealing, carjacking. It's only going to increase. That war against us, economic war, which we should have controlled the cannabis space. That's the problem with the MSO, because they fear that Tyrone Muhammad message gets out. They fear that people will understand this and stop going to them bogus dispensaries, racist dispensaries, biased dispensaries that don't include them.
Right. Yeah, I want to put what you said earlier in the show a little bit different. Like you said, basically what you just said, but by going to those dispensaries, you are supporting the continued criminalization of cannabis. Right. I mean, that's where that money goes. 8% goes to law enforcement, and guess again,
tax dollars.
Yeah, those tax dollars, exactly. And law enforcement is the enforcement mechanism for their legal system.
And over $100 million from the cannabis, big cannabis, and R3 money and taxes went towards funding police departments. The same police departments that kicked our doors in for 50 years now get benefits from the money more than the actual bodies that languished in prison for the prohibition.
Yeah, and not to bring up a point you made earlier, but I wanted to add to it as well. You brought up, young men and women that are going to jail with cannabis, with like in situations with a firearm, but there's also the situation of odor.
Illinois Supreme Court will soon decide whether the smell of pot is enough reason for police to search a car.
If you'd like to learn more about the legal issues that can arise due to the odor of cannabis, you can go to thecolememo.com/guest index. Under the legal professionals section, you'll see I've interviewed Coolmeet Galhotra and Evan Bruno, both of which are very well-respected defense attorneys, and they are subject matter experts on this issue and other issues that continue to plague residents and non-residents in the state of Illinois in the context of cannabis. Once again, you can go to thecolememo.com to listen to Evan and Coolmeet. I've done episodes with both of them, including a recap of the Supreme Court case that was just mentioned in that report. If you'd like to hear real world stories by people who are affected by these shortcomings that still exist in the state of Illinois with regard to cannabis, you can go to thecolememo.com/isitlegal. I made this page because I'm constantly asking myself, is cannabis legal if you can get arrested for having too much cannabis? Is cannabis legal if you can't grow it yourself? Little shortcomings like that lead me to believe that it's not anywhere close to legal. If you'd like to learn more, including a story of a person that just got released from prison for a non-violent offense involving cannabis, you can listen to that story as well. It's one of the stories that I mentioned in this episode. Once again, all that can be found at thecolememo.com/isitlegal. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Where they'll pull you over and be like, oh, it smells like weed, and then they toss your car, and then they will still steal your car. Otherwise, as you said,
seize.
The legal term
Seize.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So they steal it, right? And it's just so unfortunate that I think we almost have to wage war against the government. It's almost like we got to wage war against the government.
Yeah.
See, and that's like dangerous. So you stand alone in a space as a black man saying that.
Right.
Like only revolution is going to make them understand, and only collective responsibility, us standing together with holding our. So let's think about it this way. No taxation without representation.
Right.
So returning citizens are the least represented population in this country. Returning citizens are perpetually discriminated by everybody, even your own family members. So
And by returning citizens, you mean people coming back
people
from prison.
coming home from incarcerated or who have been incarcerated,
Gotcha.
right? So where I will be denied housing opportunities, I will be denied job opportunities, although they have a no check the box, no box, and no discrimination. One thing you can't do, and I keep saying this, that doesn't mean anything expunging, because you can't expunge Google. If you Google Tyrone Muhammad, it shows everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly, according to them. So how could you expunge? What does expungement mean if Google got everything about me?
And they post that information probably before you even went to court. So before you even charged with that shit, your mugshot was on the internet.
It's there.
Yeah.
So tell me that in order to, hold on, let's get you lit up again, brother.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Son.
Damn. Gas me up,
keep
son.
It coming.
Yeah, keep the flight going.
All right. So this is the problem, man.
Right.
And I just have the audacity and the foresight, the knowledge and wisdom. I didn't sit in prison for 21 years. I call prison I sat in college for 21 years. Who go to college for 21 years? See, that's the difference. They know we are the ones who should control it. But if you allow me in, see, I'm going to make the 4 billion.
Yeah.
I'm going to eliminate them. They're not going to eat no more.
Right. I want to make a quick heavy point, so I'm going to need you to pick me back up here. But I know a person that just got out of prison for cannabis trafficking because he had like 50 pounds on him, whatever.
If he had 1,000.
But anyways, he was going to serve a 24-year sentence. He ended up serving 8 years of that sentence. So he just got out this January, and he saw people come and go that raped people,
right?
That assaulted people,
right?
Yeah, like it's crazy that violent criminals. Like I actually know of somebody. Like it's not somebody. It was my friend's family that was affected by this sick individual. But this person is going to prison. Thank you, because he raped their daughter. He's serving 8 years in prison.
That's ridiculous.
8 years, bro.
8 years.
And that's a little girl's life. You know what I'm saying? And like, let's make the crime proportionate to the damage on society.
That's right.
And people that are buying cannabis made this decision. Like I made this decision to come here. You know what I mean?
Because it's the lobbyists and lawyers that make the penalties. They create the penalty. They create the harm. They create the file. Because I've always said Black death is a hustle. Everybody eats off the bodies and the deaths of Black and even brown men. Because I've always tell my Latino brothers who serve time with me, whether they're Harmon Park or Little Village, I say, listen, because of your population boom and because of what you all are doing as Latin folks and Latin kings to each other, you all are the new niggas. Stop calling yourself that. You have culture, you have language. You all will be filling these prisons up because they ran their course with Black people. It's no coincidence that illegal citizens, people don't like to talk about it, illegal citizens that have no citizenship in this country get more than Black men and brown men that's suffering in this country that's legal. Right. $2 billion in Chicago alone went to migrants while we are unemployed in our communities, while we are untrained in our community, while we suffer mental health issues in our community, while we're suffering all manner of injustices, murdered boys by police officers go openly unchecked. Women and the disinvestment of our women in these communities by agencies that would so take their children from them without ever providing them the necessary aid and support, the resources to help them. We got all the resources to lock a Tyrone Muhammad up. But once I come home, those same resources aren't afforded to me to get on my feet. What? How you do that?
Yeah.
So how do you rationalize spending the tax dollars to respond to something or ill or issue, but then you can't spend the tax dollars to prevent an issue or ill?
Right.
So it's diabolical.
Yeah, exactly. It's just pure evil.
It is.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, man. So this right here, prohibition, is a war against all of that which has been prohibited, right?
Yeah.
So it's like ex-cons, right? I say it loudly and proudly in their face. Like we fighting the prohibition of all these things. But the difference is when liquor had prohibition, white men who went to jail for that, roaring 20s and 30s and 40s, and Al Capone, them who fought and had bootleg and whiskey runs and all of that to make it. And then, but white men end up controlling, the same Irish and Italians and Jews end up controlling the industry. We built the black market that is cannabis as black men, but yet we don't even control not even 0.001% of that industry. That to me is systemic. That to me is racist. That to me is prejudice.
Yeah, well said. I mean, and I mean, with everything that we have talked about in this interview, are you at all worried about? I mean, I know we got to wait until fall session, right? So, and I'll be back in Springfield for sure if they're gonna try anything like that again. I was there last time smoking weed at the Capitol, and if it sounds like maybe I'll see you next time if they try this shit again. But so obviously we don't got to worry.
Next time bring him a girl.
Hell yeah. I'll see you there. We'll blaze up. I'll have joints for y'all next time. Okay. Homegrow. So, so we're good for this summer. As Kimberly Lightford said, it's open season on children this summer. So,
obviously that's about all these murders of our babies that she hasn't contributed to. I mean, to help and put funding in our communities.
Right.
To fix.
That was a really bad joke on my part. But what I meant to say was that
I want to reiterate that this was not the best joke on my part, but what I meant by it, and I think Tyrone knew what I meant by it, I wasn't actually referring to, any like gun-related violence or any violence at all. I was referring to the absurd comments that Leader Lightford made. I'm not aware of any cannabis-related deaths related to any of these products in Illinois. So I just wanted to briefly clarify that for a moment. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
For this summer, we're actually good. We don't have to worry about it. So come on down to Prohibition THC Cafe. But like come fall, like I guess are you just like worried about them trying to crack down on this?
No.
No.
Because if they play with me in this space, my goal is to build awareness in our young people. They think they have problems with young people downtown in these communities already that they fear. I'm going to drive these young people down their throat, and we're going to increase the black market that is weed in these streets, and we're going to shut these dispensaries down. Now, you want to play? Now you're going to prevent me from doing legal business? Now I'm going to sell 1 million pounds a year in Chicago. Now, how are you going to eat? So play games if you want to, and you won't let us be legal. You won't let us pay taxes. You won't let us reduce violence through employment. You won't let us do the necessary things in workforce development and opportunity because prisons are profitable. Crime pays. Crime just don't pay our communities. Someone benefits from murder. You have $800 million for county jails are tax dollars. You have $2 billion in IDOC prison systems. You have another $2 billion in Chicago police. I ain't even count the county. I ain't even talked about none of the other ancillary stuff from the judges to all of that. All of that is off the back of bodies of black and brown men and boys. Now women. Women are the fastest growing incarcerated a segment or section of our community. They're wilding out. They're doing stuff that I ain't even seen men do. And they are hitting these prisons, and they're not being educated at a rate. By men should be educating them about, hey, sister, cut that shit out. Because women need fathers and big brothers for real. And that's not happening. And these girls going to prison at a rate like I've never seen before. So what I'm saying is we're going to figure out how to unify our community and touch that population that they not caring about because they don't vote. Ex-felons are the biggest voting block in the country. Over 1.5 million ex-felons in the state of Illinois. We can elect anybody we want to elect in this country or remove if we just exercise our power and potential.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's
that's dangerous.
Right.
What I'm saying is dangerous because if people catch on to that, and then now you get to see the mindset behind how I'm able, and with my partner Sam, to create this, right? Because I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking already, while everybody thinking this shallow way, I'm way up here thinking on how we get to the next level before we extinct and before the whole world is upside down. So, and that's not popular. That's not popular thought.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're able to make that much change and get everybody together, there have been many figures that they've shut down that have done the same thing.
Or killed or murdered.
And that's what I meant.
And I get death threats all the time. And that probably from some of the MSOs.
Damn, dude.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say, and I wanted to give you space to close, but I wanted to say really quick, people ask me all the time, why are you so obsessed with this topic particularly? And it's like, well, because this is the answer. This is the answer to all these things that I've been complaining about. Hemp is obviously the answer because it's legal.
Yeah.
You don't have possession limits.
Yeah.
You don't have dosage caps, which I like because I'll buy these sodas from a company here in Illinois that have 50 milligram cans.
Over there.
Oh, fuck yeah. Different.
Get in your bag before you leave.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to buy a bunch of stuff before I go. But the reason I like it is because, as a consumer, it's addressed all of the issues that I've had. I have no aspirations to get in the business. I'm going to support people like you that are in the business because you are the people that supply me with the goods. And again, just little things like you go to the dispensary, and I remember the first time I ever went to the dispensary, I was like, I want that, and that. And they're like, whoa, you can only have this much. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then, yeah.
What's the purpose of having a grocery store and I can't go buy the whole grocery store?
Exactly. So it's like little things like that. This hemp is addressed, and it's crazy to me. It's mind-boggling to me that people are really trying to shut this shit down. Like, it's just, to me, like, and that's why I want more consumers to know about it so that they can come out here, support people like you, and get used to it. So that if they try to take this shit away, it'll be like, hold the fuck on. It'd be like taking your grocery store away because this is like the local grocery store. So it's like, man, I just want to thank you for what you're doing out here, dude.
Yes, sir, brother.
Yeah.
We brothers for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I promised, I wanted to give you space. I always like give people the space at the end of the show. Anything we didn't address or anything you'd like to say before we go out?
Yeah, absolutely. I always got something to say.
Hell yeah.
I think. But everything is, I'm always serious about it because I've probably, since I've been home in 2017 and operating as a social justice, social change organization that created the space where we at with Support Your Local Weed Man as a protest against. That's what it started as, a protest.
And people can look it up. I remember you being out in front of the dispensaries, and I'll put the pictures in the podcast so that people know what's up.
Stanley Side, Pure Leaf, what's the Veranos, all of these groups. If you go on YouTube or my Facebook or whatever, you will see that us protesting. And in front of this, I got Snoop over there. We've been out there doing that, right? So it's acted as a protest. And even the name of the cafe that my goal is to franchise them after we open and set the model for 2 or 3. I want my staff, the community to be able to buy 49% of every dispensary we build out, so they don't see themselves as workers, but having a stake in something they building for themselves. Because it's about sharing the wealth and not being selfish, right? So that's my goal. Is probably sometimes it seems too ambitious, because ultimately a lot of us, and we haven't taught our community and societal members that they can be more than just workers, that they should be owning their own destinies. If this is what it is that you want to do, find those links and those intersectionalities that you can link with, that allow you to help build something as well as building yourself. So if I buy Nike, chances are I own stock in Nikes. You see, so own stock in what you helping to produce. And so I would say to the people out there that continue to support social change, social equity. Stop supporting those dispensaries. On this face, all of them are racist and biased in their current formulation of operation, from the top to the bottom. And social equity, there's no such thing as social equity if returning citizens and those most affected by the war on drugs are not part owners of the product or the industry that they're building or that they're making money off of. Lastly, I would say there's no such thing as social equity when 75 to 80% of the people, the black people who won the licenses, sold it right back to the MSOs.
Look, there are definitely a lot of well-connected individuals that happen to be social equity licensees. It's something I detail in my mini documentary, which you can check out at thecolememo.com/minidoc. And right now I'm about to play a little bit more of a clip that I featured in the episode earlier, just for additional context. You can also check out the full report. I'll have it linked in the show notes. This is the ABC 7 report. If you're curious and you're looking at the show notes, here's just a little bit more from that. Just wanted to include this for additional context in this conversation.
On January 1st, 2020, recreational consumption, possession, and sales of cannabis products became legal in the state of Illinois. In July, a study by the state's Cannabis Regulation Oversight Office found that 60% of all cannabis business licenses went to minority or women-owned businesses. Now, when broken down by race, this is what it looks like. 27% are majority black owners, 5% Latino, 3% Asian, and 14% are a mixed coalition.
So it's no such thing. They use social equity and DEI as a tool for their dirty religion. They really don't believe in that inclusion, because if they did, the recidivism rate in the world would be reduced. Because these men coming in and out of prison after spending all that time in prison should have came out of prison better men or women. Yet they come out worse than when they went in. Because those institutions are merely warehouses. They are not institutions for reformation and reform.
Facilities,
or correction. So I'm saying it again. When returning citizens like myself, ex-cons like myself win, it's a hit or a shot at elected officials and society who needs a boogeyman, who needs people to step on in order to justify and rationalize their deception to the people. So if we don't ever have a Tyrone Muhammad succeed, who also make it possible for others to succeed, then they continue to win and they continue to exploit our ignorance and use us for tools for their ills. And with that being said, stop shopping at those dispensaries. Come down to 2113 South State Street. Prohibition THCafe. This is the vibe, this is the experience, and this is what we will use as a tool to destroy those false narratives that the cannabis industry is using, and in turn destroy their dispensaries. Why shouldn't $4 billion go into our pockets?
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Well, gotta say once again, the weed's great. I'm about to buy more. Folks, come on down and have a great time. Get you some weed and connect with other like-minded
you got
individuals.
infusions, slushies. It's hot outside.
Fuck yeah.
You have lemonades.
Perfect.
You have teas. You have edibles and flour. Lollipop, 100 milligram lollipops. Then you have the drinks, and we have infused brownies, Rice Krispies, cookies. We are the culture, and we're gonna change the narrative.
And that's exactly what I expected from legalization, and you don't find that in a dispensary, folks. I'm just saying, Yeah. That's a good note to end on. Tyrone, I want to thank you again, dude.
That's it, brother.
All right. Well, folks, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.